I'm Nikki Woods, and we are going beyond the studio with more than a bombshell, more than a love goddess. Our parents had Dear Abby, and we have Dear Abiola Abrams. How are you?
Good morning, Nikki. I'm great. How are you?
I am really, really good. I am ready to get my bombshell on. So, yay. So let's talk about it a little bit, because you have done some really, really wonderful things in the time that I have known you and in your career. And this just seems to be an extension of all of that. The book is called The Sacred Bombshell Handbook of Self-Love, and it's your passport, you say, to becoming the woman that you are always meant to be. Why do you say that?
Well, I wrote this book, Nikki, from the thousands, as a result of the thousands of letters that I get from women from my Essence column and the women that I coach one-on-one and speak to, that I realized that there's really a self-love crisis, and almost every challenge that we have has a self-love solution. And we all grew up, Nikki, hearing, just love yourself, just love yourself, just love yourself, and it becomes this kind of esoteric thing, but we don't really know what it means or how to get there. And so I felt like we needed a textbook and a guide and a blueprint to help us to become who we were born to be.
Yeah, and you know what? And I think you're right. I mean, I think I like myself most days, love
Yes.
myself on half of those days. But there are days when you wake up and you're like, oh, I'm getting old. I'm too fat. I can't find a man. I'm not in the right career. So how do you combat that self-talk? Not even what other people are saying, but what we say to ourselves.
That is the most important of all, right? Because we spend time with people, a percentage of the day, but we're with ourselves 24 hours a day. And science shows that inner voice, that unconscious and subconscious mind, those thoughts are the most powerful of all. And so I begin with us taking an inventory. Find out what you're really saying to yourself. Most of the time, we're not even aware of it. And we say things, Nikki, to ourselves that we wouldn't say to our worst enemy. The second thing is really figure out how, how a self-love challenge is manifesting in your life. Because if you ask most of us, do you love yourself? You'll say yes. But then I start to say, well, what are you afraid of? And how is fear holding you back in your life? Where are you sabotaging yourself? Where are you making promises to yourself that you're not keeping? I'm not going to call him back. I'm going to speak up at work. I'm going to have the guts to do this or that. I'm going to live my dreams. And then you don't. And so being really aware of those things is then when you can move on to that inner voice. And now you know what you're saying to yourself. You know how it's manifesting in your life, and you can begin to work to change it.
And now I feel like I'm starting to be able to do some things. You say that nothing matters more than you feeling good about yourself. Why do you say that? I mean, because I can think of a lot of things that, it may not matter more all the time, but there are times where some things are really, really important. Why do you say nothing matters more than that?
Nothing matters more than you feeling good about yourself. And this is such a controversial thing to say, because as women, we've been taught to please other people, to take care of everyone else, put yourself last, give, which is so important. Giving is a whole chapter in the book. But nothing matters than mama feeling good, because if mama doesn't feel good and mama doesn't love herself, you know what? The kids don't love themselves. Then, the spouse doesn't know how to necessarily function in the world. Then if you don't love yourself, you're not able to speak up and make a change in the world. You're not able to go to your civic organization or your church or whatever you believe in and be able to say, stop, this is wrong, or this is right, or here's how we can make a change. If you don't feel good about you, I don't care what you believe, you cannot make an impact in this world, because it begins with the way you feel about yourself. I'll give you an example, Nikki. My typical client, although there is nothing typical about these women, is a woman who has everything except for what she really wants. And so she will say, well, I spoke to my husband about these big dreams, or I spoke to my friend, my best friend, or my mother, or whoever about these big dreams, and they don't believe in me. And I say, well, are the people that you are speaking to, do they believe in themselves? Because a lot of times we try to convince people of our dreams and we say, why don't they believe in me? And you realize they don't even believe in themselves. And so it's really important that we have that foundation where you feel good about yourself in the world, and that's when you can make an impact.
Yeah,
question, Nikki.
Yeah, one thing I say all the time is like we look to people to coach us that can't even run their own race.
Yes.
So we're expecting them to show how to run our race, and I find a lot of times that people hate on your dreams because they don't have any dreams of their own.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Very good. So, and one of the things that I love is that not only do you base your principles, and I want to get into the principles next, you base your principles on your life, but you also base them on what you've learned from your parents and your grandparents and your extended family and your heritage. Tell me why that became so important and how you've been able to incorporate that into your coaching and into your book.
Thank you so much for asking. This is really, really critical to the sacred method, which is what I call my coaching method. I'm a first generation American, Nikki. I am the first person in my family, yes, born in this country, on this soil. And so I take nothing for granted, about our freedoms and the right as a woman to have agency in how I move in this world. My great-grandmother was a midwife in Guyana, South America, and a women's fertility healer. She helped women to give birth to babies, and I feel like what I do is I help women to give birth to themselves. And so the work that I do is definitely in my family line. From my great-grandmother, then on both sides, my grandparents were farmers, on my mother and father's side. Then my parents, both from the same village in Guyana, met in New York City. My mother was a teacher, and my father is a preacher and a journalist. And so what I do is really, literally the culmination of the work that I do in my family line. And so it was really important and powerful for me to share these lessons.
And you have 11 of them. They are the 11 Sacred Bombshell Principles of Self-Love. Give me the top 3 and explain to me why they are, not just critical, but absolutely necessary for people to go and discover this, whether it's with you or on their own or through your book. Why is it necessary for us to discover this to be happy and to love ourselves?
Yes. Well, okay. So let me tell you first what a sacred bombshell is.
Okay.
I've reclaimed the word bombshell to mean a woman who loves herself, honors, and cherishes herself, mind, body, and spirit. And so we respect the typical bombshells, what Hollywood tells us are bombshells, the Marilyn Monroes, the Halle Berrys, the Beyoncés. But this is about you and I and the woman next door learning how to love, honor, and cherish herself. And so the top 3 principles that someone could begin with is first the principle of receiving. Now, that sounds really basic, right? We say, we all know how to receive. Give me something and I'll receive it. But in your life, do you know how to receive a basic compliment? Can you receive abundance? Many of us have problems pricing. Those of us who work freelance, learning how to price what we offer into the world. All of those are issues with receiving. An example I use in the book is that my beautiful sister-in-law, she just had a baby. And when she was pregnant a few months ago in New York City, she was on the subway and she had issues with taking a seat when people offered her a seat. We have like these issues around being able to receive. And if you have problems with receiving, just your basic blessings, then you're going to have issues with getting what you want.
And let me just tell you something real quick, because that's so funny. I did a compliment challenge with my friends because I noticed how many people, even if you don't believe it, how many people just can't just say thank you? Yes. It's like you'll say, you look so pretty, and you'll be like, well, this dress makes me look fat. And you're just like, well, just say thank you. Even if you don't believe it. Just say thank you. So I was like, we got to compliment each other at least 10 times a day, and you're not allowed to say anything negative. You just either have to say thank you or you have to add another compliment on top of it. It is so interesting to me how many of us just cannot take a compliment.
Yes, and that goes back to what we really feel about ourselves. We really feel deep down flawed and broken. And what I say is that the same thing that made you and I made the moon, the stars, and the sky. And I promise you, you are not the one broken thing in this universe.
Give me another one.
So another principle from the book on the other side of receiving is letting go. And isn't that interesting that we have problems with the getting and the letting go? And life is a cycle. You know, things come and go, and it's important for us to be a part of that ebb and flow. And many of us get stuck, you know, and we think, okay, well, nothing's changing. I'm stuck. Well, you know what? Everything changes. We have a new body every 7 years. You just keep changing things back to the same thing because your belief system is stuck. And so being able to let things go, whether it's basic, you know, clutter, that's the physical manifestation, the things around you. There's something I call people clutter, people in your life who have outlived, you know, their sacred usefulness to you, you know, to us being able to let go of the mental clutter, the mental noise, you know, that kind of thing. What are you feeding your mind, body, and spirit with? That's a reflection of self-love.
One thing Oprah said on her show, and it has to have been years ago, and I will never forget it. She's like, you will always be able to tell the state of my life by looking at the state of my car. She's like, I don't know why it's my car, but if my life is cluttered and junky and not clear, that's the same way my car is going to look. And I thought that was so profound. And I've always stuck, you know, and remembered that.
It is so profound, and it's true that you can tell a person's state of mind. And look, I'm a creative person. I like things, you know, kind of messy, but there's a difference between messy creatively and cluttered, and, you know, having your environment, you know, be dingy,
right?
You know,
gotcha.
Or your state of mind be dingy.
Yeah. All right, give me your third one.
So a third one, this is a really, really important one, and many of us think that we're doing this, but we're not, is community. And this is, you know, there's an African principle called Ubuntu, which is, you know, which says, as you are, I am. And it's really being able to look at someone and say, I am my brother's keeper, I am my sister's keeper. That so many of us are so judgmental about the people around us, and that keeps us from living our dreams and stepping into our greatness, because we're afraid of that same judgment back. You see, if you are moving in the world where you're judging, why'd she wear that? Why is Abiola's hair doing that thing? Why is Nikki wearing whatever? And you have a basic judgment about everyone else, then you're unable to be in community and then be able to give from a correct place. You know, a lot of us give from a place of thinking of pity, right, of looking down on someone. Oh, well, poor such and such, or, you know, look how great I am because I'm giving this. No, you know, a true sense of community is being able to look at someone and see yourself and come from a place of compassion. And you may say, well, how is that from a place of self-love? It's because literally you are, I am, we are the same.
All right, but what about those that make it a little bit difficult? Because, you know, there are people in the world, and
yes,
and I'm trying to be judgment-free here, but there are people in the world that are more challenging to love than others. How do you tackle that with the clients that you coach?
This is something I just gave a huge seminar actually to a corporation about this, about communicating with difficult people. And it really all comes back to ourselves. First of all, check yourself, you know, because communication, as much as we hate to admit it, it's a two-way process. And so if I am speaking to you in Spanish and you're not understanding me, I can't be like, well, what's wrong with Nikki? She can't get it. You know, that there's a way that each of us has of communicating and receiving information. And, you know, sometimes, quite frankly, if someone is really difficult, even if they are related to you, then they don't deserve a front seat in your big, bright, shiny bombshell life. They just don't. And so many of us keep up with these relationships with people who are, you know, difficult, and it's easier for us to keep complaining about the person than for us to make a difference in ourselves, whether that difference is moving away from and ending the relationship, or examining our own communication patterns and, you know, realizing, wait, I keep doing the same thing over and over again with this person and expecting a different result. You know, Nikki, as you know, a dog is not going to suddenly bark. So, you know, my kitty Annabelle, I can't yell at her and be like, why is she meowing? Why does she keep meowing? She's a cat. that's what she's going to do. And so if you have, say, a difficult coworker or whoever it is that keeps on behaving the way that they act, they're going to keep doing that. You either have to shift your game or shift your place. One or the other.
Well, all right. The book, and I'm gonna reread this because I think I need to freshen up on some points. But it's a Sacred Bombshell Handbook of Self-Love. I really appreciate you and how you move in the world. So I'm so glad we got a chance to spend together today. Dear Abiola, I definitely appreciate you. Real quickly, tell people how they can get the book and also contact you, because you give out a lot of great information on social media platforms as well.
Thank you so much, sis. Well, I am at abiolatv.com, where the TV stands for Transformation and Victory. And you can find me across social media at Abiola TV. Here is what the book looks like. It is... Yay! 400 pages, but do not be afraid. Do not be afraid. It's because I wanted to make a comprehensive self-love handbook so you can jump in, at any place or read throughout. And I have also affirmation cards and, various offerings and ways that we could work together, either, as a group. I can come and talk to your organization or corporation, or just you and I one-on-one. abiolatv.com.
All right, my love. We will talk soon. I am Nikki Woods. We have gone beyond the studio on blackamericaweb.com.